tremendous control, though he denied that's actually what he said yesterday. Here's what he said yesterday, followed by what he said today.
It's a very contagious virus. It's incredible, but it's something that we have tremendous control over.
But you're not saying it's under control, right?
I'm not referring to it, meaning the... Yeah, if you're talking about the virus, no, that's not under control for any place in the world. I read, no, I didn't. I was talking about what we're doing is under control, but I'm not talking about the virus.
So actually said we have tremendous control over. Jeremy Diamond is at the White House with a possible reason for the president's new tone today. So what do you account for the tone? I mean, it's certainly different from what we heard from President Trump in the last, many weeks.
It certainly is, Anderson. Look, we've seen this president repeatedly downplay this pandemic over the course of this outbreak, including yesterday when you saw where he was saying that this was totally under control. And we saw that dramatic shift in tone today where the president really seemed to acknowledge the gravity of the situation, acknowledging how bad this virus is and the impact that it will have on Americans' daily lives. And that's why we saw him issue that guidance today to Americans on what they can do to mitigate the spread. Now, what I'm told is that the president's shift in tone really underscored a shift among top officials inside the White House over the last couple of days. As officials saw those number of cases surging over the weekend after the number of tests that were being issued and carried out were also rising, the administration really began to understand how bad this situation was. One administration official telling me that the scale of the problem really became more apparent. And as the scale of the problem became more apparent, we saw some of the administration's top public health officials really increasingly making the case to the president's coronavirus task force that they needed to do something beyond travel restrictions, beyond what we have seen them do so far, and instead now taking that top-down approach to encourage Americans to really make changes to their daily lives.
You're also hearing the president has been very focused on how further restrictions could affect the economy.
Yeah, well, listen, we know that the president has been extremely concerned about the economy throughout all of this. This is a re-election year, Anderson, and the president knows that he needs a strong economy in order to get his next 4 years. That is very much in question now as a result of all of this. And so the president at times has been spurred on by bad economic news, seeing that as a reason to act further. But over the weekend, we're told that there were some officials who were arguing that these more severe restrictions on daily life for Americans, that could really have an even worse economic impact. But the president apparently, we are told, was swayed ultimately by the argument that these steps needed to be taken now, if not, the economic ramifications in the long term would be much more severe.
And is the White House considering stricter guidelines, that like a national curfew?
Look, the president was asked about that today, whether he was considering some kind of a national quarantine or a national lockdown of some kind. The president said that at this time that is not something that is under consideration for him, but he did say that what he is looking at and what he is considering is targeted at specific areas, specific hotspots around the country. But we should note, Anderson, that the president certainly did not rule anything out. And even as the president was issuing these guidelines that are about changing Americans' daily lives for the next 15 days, I think it was quite clear inside the White House briefing room today that all of this could be extended. The president was talking about this pandemic in the United States running through July, maybe even August, and perhaps even later than that, according to some public health experts. So it's quite clear that the impacts on Americans' daily lives will be severe, and the president seems prepared to take further steps beyond what we have already seen him do today. Anderson?
Right. Jeremy Diamond, thanks very much. I want to bring two veterans of the Obama White House, senior political commentator David Axelrod